You know that feeling you get when you see something you shouldn't? The sinking sensation that pushes up your insides into your throat. For some, this feeling comes from walking in on their parents having sex or seeing a drug deal down in a dark alleyway. I wasn't so lucky. This all began about 7 months ago during my second year of college. I had started working as a part-time loader at a tractor supply. It was easy work, easy money, and I figured some muscle-building manual labor wouldn't hurt my chances with the ladies. Things went about as expected until Jack Stoll walked in. He was handsome, probably in his late 30s, with brown hair sprinkled with salt and pepper, and a short, well-trimmed beard. The odd thing was how well he dressed. Most men that came in were ranchers wearing dirty jeans and boots, topped off with nice-sized cowboy hats. Jack wore loafers, pressed chinos, and a solid-colored button-up shirt. He walked up to me. "Excuse me, can you point me to the pig feed?" Yes, sir, right this way." I led him around the towering columns of ranching supplies to the livestock feed. "Pig feed's right here, sir," I said, pointing towards the stack of Purina show chow. "Would you like me to help you out with these?" What the hell. I'm short on time, so the extra hand'll help." He pulled his cart up next to the bags. "How many?" I asked. "I'll start with 4. Come back for more when I need it." With that, we began loading. I hefted the first 25-pound bag up and into the cart, sending a metallic jangle echoing. "You bulking up a show pig?" "No," he said with a grunt as he bent down for another bag. "I'm fattening one up for slaughter." His words were sharp. I disregarded his tone at the time because he added, "It's so much cheaper to buy one and butcher it yourself, you know? And I love myself some bacon." Bacon, my good man, is the key to life, the meat of the gods. He laughed. "Oh boy, my wife hates this stuff." He shook his head. "Hated this stuff." He paused. Unsure of how to respond, I bent for another bag. "It's probably the first time I've laughed since she passed, so thank you for that." He reached his hand out. "My name's Jack." "Alex," I said, shaking it. I left Jack at the cash register and walked outside. The sun was headed around the edge of the earth, turning the sky yellow-red. While I waited, I wondered wildly about what might have happened to Jack's wife. The rickety cart rattled out along with Jack. "My car's over there," he said, giving his unlock button a quick click. A sedan's light flashed, and we walked towards it. The front bumper was caved in on the driver's side. Not enough to inflict an occupant with more than a sore back. That ruled out death by car wreck for his wife. He opened the trunk, and we had the bags loaded in. "Thank you, Alex." "Yes, sir. Happy to help. I'm not just saying that because I work here." With another chuckle, he slammed the door and walked past me to get in his car. "I'll keep an eye out for you the next time I come in. You're good company." Jack came in regularly after that, getting more feed and occasionally throwing in stall bedding pellets. With each visit over those first 6 months, he maintained his initial politeness. But that wasn't enough to keep me from noticing the changes. Most were innocent enough. Half a shirt tail out, untrimmed beard, messy hair. One afternoon I got a good look into his eyes, and I saw 2 bottomless trenches, and the shadow of some grotesque beast that threatened to break free. Curiosity finally got the better of me. As month 7 of our odd friendship rolled around, Jack's sedan pulled into the lot as I was getting off my shift. Instead of greeting him like normal, I ducked behind a pillar to remain unseen as he walked in. I was thinking about asking him outright what was going on, but that was too forward for my tastes, and I didn't want to lose my job. I peered around to catch a glimpse at him before he walked out of sight. His gait was that of an angry zombie as he shuffled into the store. My gut told me that there was something really messed up going on. I had my theories about what it was exactly that had happened. Murder, drug money, sex trafficking all top the list. And what of his wife? This was a bad idea, but I was already walking to my car to get into place for my half-baked scheme. I pulled into my hiding spot and waited. After 10 minutes, he walked out with his customary basket full of feed. His damn eyes. It was as if what they had witnessed was so horrific, they only felt safe tucking into the shadows of the sunken sockets. He shrugged to heave bags into his car. Instead of ditching the basket in the lot like most of the jerks that came in, he walked it back up to the store. He shuffled back to his car, and he left. I tailed him like a practiced stalker, weaving through town, heading towards a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to know. But something pushed me on. Jack and I had grown close, sharing tidbits of our lives and the time it took us to get out to his car and load up. He knew about my parents, my girlfriend, my thoughts on politics, and even my dog's name. Not even my coworkers knew Ralphie's name. And he shared plenty of his life with me. He never mentioned his wife again, but he shared other things. His brother's a cop in town, has been for 20 years. His dad lives up north in Maine with his stepmom. His mom passed away 15 years ago after a stroke. We'd become unconventional friends, but friends nonetheless. And I knew that Jack was a good guy. This realization hit me as we passed city limits, and I resolved to see this through for Jack, to help him out if he was in some kind of trouble. Houses got further apart as we got further from the city, until there was nothing but acres of farmland. It was late afternoon when Jack turned down a dirt road. I drove past the turnoff and doubled back after a few seconds. I could make out his dust trail in the distance. I took it slow so I didn't create my own and followed. In the distance, his dust lingered in place and dissipated. He'd finally stopped. I could make out the tip of a barn. I parked my car down a side road next to a wall of corn stalks and a lone tree a half-mile from where he stopped. As I walked towards the main road, I looked back to see how visible my car was. My little Toyota was forest green and blended well enough with its surroundings. Like gossiping snakes, the cornstalks hissed in the wind as I walked down the main dirt road towards the barn. I was a quarter mile from it when the dirt cloud kicked up again. Oh, shit! I drove into the corn as Jack rounded the corner. He sped past, making the stalks dance around me, and as they settled back into their normal movements, I strained my ears for an abrupt stop signaling the discovery of my car. Just the sound of an engine getting further, and whispers from the corn. When Jack sounded far enough away, I stepped back out into the road. The tip of the barn slowly grew before me. It was like the ones that you'd see in the picture books. Red paint and all. But the paint was cracked and flaked, and the wood it covered was dilapidated. Planks were missing every few feet, making the barn look like the skeleton of a large, boxy beast. The farmland around the barn mirrored it. What was organized rows of crops morphed into scattered cornstalks, weed, mesquite bushes, untended wasteland. The smell of shit and something else I couldn't quite place slapped me in the face about 20 feet from the barn. I fought the urge to throw up, but I pushed on. If I found a dead body in there, do I call the police? Jack's brother? It was even worse by the door. But my nose ignored it when my ears caught the sound of a pig. It was faint, but unmistakable nasal grunts. Misplaced relief and courage flooded me. It's only a pig, I thought. I'll drop in, have a quick look at it, and leave. Simple as that. I slid the door aside and saddled in, my hand clamping my nose shut. The grunt echoed around the room, but I couldn't make anything out. Slats of light made it through the cracked windows and missing boards. Other than that, the room was dark. My ears placed the pig at the back of the barn, probably with a pen, with bedding, and a trough, based on what Jack was buying of the tractor supply. I moved into the barn's belly, pulling my phone out for extra light. I noticed a wet sound along with the pig's grunts and its heavy breaths. It must have been eating and doing so with vigor. I guess Jack really only feeds it a few times a week. My phone light cast shadows, making the rusty tools and broken benches in the barn creepier than necessary. And was that a moan along with the sound of slop? No, surely not. I made out the pen. Light pushed through the slats and landed on a pink, hairy, heaving mass, consumed by the meal before it. My breath quickened and my body shook. Had that been a human leg attached to that pig? No. The pig stopped feeding. All was quiet, but the thump of my heart in my ears and the pig's heavy breathing. More? It asked with longing. Through mud and feces it squelched towards me. A man with long, matted hair peeked at me through the sty's slats. My phone's light danced in his dilated eyes. You're not him. More food. All I could get out was, no, What? Seeing I didn't have food with me, he crawled back to his slop. Light, shaking, I willed my legs forward. In the sty, on hands and knees, hunched over a short trough, was a naked, morbidly obese man. His eyes billowed around him in an asymmetrical mass, covered in a mixture of bodily discharge and mud. I could taste his stench. I welcomed the vomit that came, anything to clean my mouth, and before I had time to plan out my next steps, a phone that wasn't mine vibrated and dinged. It was on a warped table near the front door of the barn. The light it cast crept up the wall. Oh no. Jack walked in with his right hand on his smartwatch. He was pinging the phone he left behind. Fear planted me. I prayed he would be like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. It couldn't see you if you don't move. He gasped when he saw me. Alex? What are you doing here? He sounded more hurt than angry. Shouldn't I be asking you that question? I tried to project as much outrage as I could muster, but with my nose still pinched, I sounded like a kid show character. A sloshing sound came towards us. The man in the sty crawled up to the slats and snorted. More food? Jack turned to the man. No, you piece of shit! Get back to the slop I just gave you! His voice had mutated into an animal snarl. I figured this would have been the best time to make it towards a thin opening I noticed in the barn wall. I mean, if I squeezed through, I might make it out. I psyched myself up for a millisecond, then rushed towards it. Whoa! Jack called. You'll hurt yourself if you go that way! His words only half registered at the time. I got to the opening and wormed my way out, shoulder first. Jack thumped at me from behind. The image of him grabbing my leg, pulling me in, and chaining me next to the man had me clawing with all of my strength. Shirt tearing and skin ripping, I pushed outside. I breathed fresh air, thankful to be out there. Ignoring the pain, I ran towards my car. I caught the faint sound of Jack's yells, and then his engine starting. I glanced over my shoulder at the car, racing down the road. When I pushed into the corn, visibility dropped to nothing. Nothing but wavy green stalks. I sprinted, making a mental note to exercise more often. My calves were clenched fists at that point. It also didn't help that the stalks whipped my face and arms as I barreled through. The leaves cut like paper, leaving stinging slices all over. On a good day, a half mile would take me 5 or 6 minutes, but this wasn't a good day. It might have been my last day if Jack caught me. I strained to hear over the wind, my heavy breaths, and the thuds of my feet. But I couldn't hear Jack's car. That didn't mean much with the extra noise, but maybe I would be okay. Maybe Jack cut his losses and made a break. I slowed to a brisk walk when I could see the tree where I had parked my car. Still, no engine hum or tire crunch. And thank God I'm home free. I was thinking of my first steps when I pushed through the edge of the farmland. Jack was sitting on the head of my car, with his right hand cradling his forehead. He looked up when he heard me. Alex, don't run. Please, you need to let me explain myself. What you saw back there, he's a bad man. I weighed my options. Try to take Jack head on. Maybe a break for my car. Steal his? I won't stop you if you want to go. This, he gestured to the barn, is over. I'm done. I ran past, out of his reach to be safe, and got into my car. He pushed off the hood and stepped aside. Quiet consumed me after I slammed the door. The type of quiet that hurts your ears. But why should I have to worry about this? I'll leave it to the professionals. I pulled away when Jack put his hands up and signaled for me to roll my window down. I felt braver in my car, so I complied. I'd run that sick freak over if I had to, and Jack walked up to my window. I don't expect you to do anything but call the police, but please, hear me out. Tears welled up. He locked his eyes on mine. Okay. My foot twitched on the brake, ready for action. You're a good man, Alex. He nodded and wore a half smile that quickly faded. That thing in there, his name's Richie Snyder. 3 years ago, that piece of shit strangled my wife, Stacy, while she was out on a jog. My blood cooled. He didn't kill her that night, though she grew to wish that he had. After it happened, she walked in, hair disheveled, tank top torn, hanging off her shoulder. Her hand pulled her waistband up. She looked dazed, like she had solved some unanswerable equation. "You raped me," she said. "We did everything right. We reported to the police, to the kit, gave a description, and they caught the fucker." That night was the first night since it happened that she could sleep. As hard as it was, she gave her testimony at the trial. "We were only there that one day," she said. "It felt so good to look that pig in the face, knowing he would go away for good. But Richard had information, which was worth more to the county than putting him away. He was involved with a local drug ring, and he was promised that if he snitched, his sentence would be lessened to 3 months of jail time. Fucking community service." Jack's body shook, and tears slid over his wrinkles. Up close, he looked 10 years older than when I had met him a few months ago. I put the car in park and took my foot off the brake. "God, Jack, I'm not finished." Stace was crushed, shoved back into the mental cage he'd just escaped, except this one was reinforced. More fear, more anger, more pain. In her mind, what other choice did she have? The day... His throat hitched. "The day after he got out, I found her body." Tears streamed. She sliced her wrists in the bathtub. When I think back to when I walked in, before the confusion, the call to 911, seeing her body rolled out of the house, I remember for a moment thinking she was asleep. Thinking all that red might be from a bath bomb. It had been months since she looked so peaceful. I hated myself for that, but it brought me maybe peace. No, not peace, purpose. I tailed him for weeks after he got out of jail, followed him to his community service. This was before I had any kind of plan. I thought about our last few months together, and the last time she was really herself was right before the sentencing. She looked the pig in the face, and that's when it all clicked. He's a fucking pig. So why not help him live and die like one? My head swirled with questions, but within the swirling was a wisp of understanding. I didn't know what I would do in his shoes, but I surely wouldn't do nothing. "So you kidnapped this Richie guy. You threw him in your barn and what, fed him pig feed? I didn't see any chains or bindings. Why didn't he leave?" "The barn isn't mine. Friends of friends own the land. Offered the old thing up to me, no questions asked. You'd be surprised how willing people are to avoid you after your wife commits." Jack trailed off and checked out for a second. "Anyway, as for how I kept him there, I had him chained in the sty at first. But he still had some fight in him. He's broken now, of course, physically, mentally. When I dumped the feed in front of him, he wouldn't touch it. But he got hungry eventually, with all that nutritious, crunchy chow right there waiting. His weeping and wailing were sweet music as he crunched through that first bag. But I needed a way to get him hooked. Make him long for it. Do you remember me talking about my brother Tom?" I nodded. "He asked to be told as little as possible. Plausible deniability and all that, but he stole some bricks from the PD evidence room. Got me some cocaine to add to the mix. I still have a few bricks of it hidden in the barn. Once I threw that in, things got easier. Couldn't get enough of the stuff. Water, feed, cocaine was all it took. Perfect slop. Little Piggy got fatter. Any moment I expected him to croak from a heart attack, but he wouldn't die. After all that, why not kill him yourself? I refused to kill him outright. But I want him to suffer. And he's done that. But like I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I miss being able to sleep. I miss not being ruled by spite. I miss my wife. I'm done. Done as in I didn't want to say it, but Jack understood. Yeah, I'm ready to meet Stacy again. What do you tell someone who's been through what he's been through? Done the things he's done. Don't die, you have so much to live for. And if he continued, would he be any less of an animal than Richie? I wanted to tell him not to go through with it, to think of his dad, of his brother, the life that he might have if he put this behind him, but I didn't. I wish you wouldn't, Jack, but I don't think I can change your mind, can I? No, but thank you for not running, to hearing me out. To my surprise, I got out of my car and embraced him. He heaved silent sobs into my shoulder. Then he backed up and he grabbed both my shoulders. Thankful to have met you, Alex. Thankful for our friendship, however short. A bright spot in the darkness. It was night when I turned back onto the highway. My hands shook as I dialed 911. One ring. I needed to tell someone, right? 2 rings. Richie Snyder. He's still in that barn. 3. I can't just leave him in there, can I? 911 operator. Where are you calling from? I hung up. They called back 10 seconds later, telling me he had just received an emergency call from my number. No emergency. At least for now. Sorry about that. I was resetting my iPhone. I triggered the emergency call function. Sir, you sound nervous. If you are in danger, stay on the line and we will... No, I'm great. That was enough for the operator, who quickly clicked off. My only company on the drive back to my dorm from that point on was the whir of tire and asphalt. I didn't know until later why I avoided the police. I felt like a squirrel crossing the road about to be pancaked by a car. I mean, in that scenario, the squirrel has 2 options. First, the one most future squirrel cakes choose. Stopping, thinking, hopping back from where it came. Second, pushing onward to the other side of the street. I wasn't sure which one I'd chose. I towed my torn and tired body up the stairs to my dorm. Thankfully, my roommate was out. I grabbed leftovers from the fridge, slunk into my bed. I put a Netflix show on to quiet my questioning inner voice and ate. I fell asleep with the leftovers on my chest and stepped back into the pigsty. Any food for Piggy? He called. Startled awake, I checked my phone. 1 a.m. I spent the rest of the night corroborating Jack's story through news articles and court police records. Everything fell into place. I even found Richie's mugshot. Even thinner and cleaner. He looked like a pig. I put my phone on the charger after that and played my PlayStation 4 until I had to leave for work at 7:30. Every time I passed the Purina Show Chow in the store, my insides twitched. But I pushed the feeling aside. And I kept working. I was pretty messed up the entire week. Lots of lost sleep. Lots of wondering if I said the right things or made the right choices. A week after, I knew which one of the squirrels I was. When my shift ended at 4, I made some purchases. A Moldex 2400 respirator, PVC-coated gloves and boots, and 4 bags of Purina Show Chow to finish Jack's work. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video, or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. It really helps me out whenever you guys do things like listen or watch. And it really helps if you guys also subscribe to the podcast or subscribe to the YouTube channel, or do things like clicking the bell or clicking the like button. For those of you who are looking to actually talk to me live and not just listen to me on the podcast or the live stream or what have you, then you can actually head over to twitch.tv/MrCreepyPasta, where I record a lot of these episodes that you see live. Also, it's just fun for me to be able to interact with you guys, and sometimes we do other fun games. And as always, I want to give a very special thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon. You guys are the ones who help me keep the lights on in the house, as well as allow me to do things like commission brand new stories. In case you guys haven't noticed, we hit that tier. So, a very special thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stricken, Chase Burnett, Deanna Kraus, G Weevil 3, Tristan Pelton, 1-800-Nightmare, Acid System, Aaron Stormcrow, Azurine Fox, Bobby Karman, Chris Lovins, Cryptic Nightmares, The Doctor, Daniel Polson, Dr. Stein and Mr. Happy, Eurogore, Freddy Krueger, Fried Chicken 12, Hades Nephew, InfernalOne, James Bruce, James Lowe, Jason VR Wilson, JimboTheHutt, Jordan Nells, Jordan Johnson, Caleb Dougal, Kiri the Sloth, Legit Quad Feed, Liam Newman, Lisa Cottrell, Marco Takes Dabs 420, Michael Scharbrough, Nico Kaio, Nina Smith, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Rafael Rodriguez, Robert White, S-Man, Sky Harbor, Snails Burnett, Talon Karlik, The Ginger Bros, Trace Miles, Tsuji Campbell, Tynannie, Unknown Nobody, Andre Garcia, Brianna Wright, Brian Ace, Caspian, hogunkji, and Someone You Love. And also a very special thank you to everybody who's down there in the description down below. All you guys who are listed as Patreons and everybody who's even supporting for just $1, I really love and appreciate you guys. And if you want to join them, you can always head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. Even $1 a month, honestly, it keeps the show going. So thank you guys so much. And to everyone out there, sweet dreams.